Thank you to my channel members and Ko-fi supporters that make these videos possible. Just another announcement before this video, I've been hired on by Elysium Games. If you live in the Denver or Lakewood area of Colorado, come play with me and other viewers of the channel and podcast. See you there! Hello everyone! I was in Trinket Mage's video, where he showed off a bunch of creator-submitted $25 decks. My deck there was Katilda, Dawnheart Prime, but I figured I'd show off another one that didn't make the cut, that I still might end up building, while giving insight into building a budget deck. You don't need to have watched the Trinket Mage's video to understand this one, but link is still given in the description below. So then, let's talk about building on a budget. Starting with Katilda, the deck I made for Trinket Mage's video. I chose her because she is an insane tempo play from the command zone. Despite being 40 cents, she can be a mana positive play. It's EDH. What are you going to do with a wide board? Attack with it? It's practically free mana. In all seriousness though, I knew going into the deck that I wanted a human token theme that could enable Katilda to be played out as a mana positive play most games. After putting token generation in, I turned to finishers. This is where cards like Angelic Aberration, Crash the Party, and Sigarda Summons comes in. I knew for this budget build challenge, I wanted a deck that uses Angelic Aberration as a way to win the game, but I had no idea Crash the Party even existed before I did a search for cards that cared about tapped creatures you control. The reason I was searching for cards that cared about this very specific topic was because I played Outlaws of Thunder Junction and Duskmourn Limited. Outlaws of Thunder Junction had Wily Duke, which was meant to be a reward for the saddle theme, but here worked just as well when tapped for mana. And Duskmourn Limited featured the green and white survival mechanic, which offered a slew of humans that had a benefit when they made it to your second main phase tapped. Not to mention, Duskmourn also had the perfect board wipe for this deck in the form of Split Up. Tap all your creatures for mana, and then cast it to destroy untapped creatures. This shell made up the perfect value engine to keep the deck flowing with cards at a very low monetary price. Here we can see how knowledge and experience with other formats can actually grant you expertise in Commander. Since I have played with the survival cards and Split Up before, I knew just how well they'd work with Katilda's ability to tap them at will. I'm sure people who play Standard or Pioneer would have similar knowledge about this, but this is just where I happened to learn about it. I was also going to make a point here with Angelic Aberration about identifying cheap finishers despite not having played with them before, but then I remembered I had actually played with the card in Frank Lepore's Horror Cube. Still, it's a good piece of advice for building on a budget. Find cards that are at a low price for being niche, not for being weak, and build around them. The variants of Commander I talked about in previous videos will help your jank win condition cross the finish line. Let's move to another example where Limited can help bolster card knowledge, but also an example where having the power consolidated in a good Commander can come into effect. That example is Imoti. For starters, Imoti does fall into the trappings of a generic Simic value commander. I even titled the deck Imoti Card Vomit as a slight against it. That being said, what got me brewing around Imoti to begin with is that she has to get really funny with her counterspells as to not cascade into dead cards. And because these counterspells are stone cold unplayable anywhere else or just chaff uncommons, the deck gets to stay super cheap. Anyway, enough about what got me interested in an Imoti deck and get to the point here. I have a cube built around cards that I don't think have a really good home in Commander. And one of the stars of that cube is my pet whale Ethereal Forger. I think this card is so cool. Anyway, Imoti likes casting stuff with expensive mana values like Ethereal Forger, so I wanted to find a way to cast this stuff as cheap as possible. Where better to take inspiration than Mono Blue Terror and Pauper? Also, think about Bloomborough Limited and even Standard, where Eddie Crab has made a showing for itself. Naturally, with all the delving and Tolarian Terror adjacent creatures here, the deck has an instant and sorcery self-mill theme. Also, bonus shout out to Frank Lepore's Horror Cube, again, with the inclusion of Scour the Laboratory. Adding Null Drifter as an expensive evoke creature on top of all these synergies got me thinking about Monstrous Vortex and Kozilek's Unsealing from the same set, and all of a sudden you have a real deck together for under 25 bucks. I get it. It's also cute that with an instant and sorcery self-mill theme, the Magic Mirror gets to be a live card here as well. Speaking of my podcast, The Magic Mirror, we did an episode about this exact topic, about how playing other formats can help with card knowledge. Check it out. Anyway, enough about specific decks. Let me consolidate everything here into a list of good ways to go about budget brewing. First, Niche cards are cheap, generic cards are expensive. The ability to combine cards and themes from multiple limited or constructed environments to create synergy is vital to budget brewing. Secondly, while not necessary, consolidate power around your commander or a handful of powerful cards. A powerful commander or a clutch of cards in the 99 that turn worthless junk into a serious threat is a great way to brew on a budget. Lastly, learn Scryfall syntax. Being able to search for similar effects across Magic's history is vital to building on a budget. Scryfall also lets you sort by price, which needless to say is a valuable tool for finding cheap cards. I have a whole video going into some more generic deck building tips, but I hope that this one got you some insight into my budget brewing process. Please tell me in the comments if there's any other budget brewing advice you'd want to give, and also if playing a format other than EDH helped you build a deck. Until next time, bye! The big project is next video, I promise.